Okay, so thank you all. Welcome back. Thank you for sticking with us for this long. We are actually in our last basically session for Student Affairs 101, and that is our graduate student panel. So again, my name is Christian, and I'll be moderating this panel. I will first ask the student panelists to introduce themselves, and I'm actually going to include the questions along with the introduction prompts into the chat. But again, I'm going to ask the panelists a few questions at the beginning just to make sure that we kind of get a little bit of everything in regards to like the process, the funding, their experience so far. And then we're going to open it up for the audience to ask questions. So just kind of have those questions prepared, or if you want to drop them in the chat, you could go ahead and do that. So the first question is the introduction, which is if you can please let us know your name, institution, interest in higher ed and student affairs, so that's student involvement, housing, admissions, so forth, and how did you end up in higher education and student affairs? And then we could do the order of introductions, Becca first, then Crystal, then Takiyah, and then Taylor. So Becca, if you want to go ahead.
Hi all, my name is Becca Mealy and I currently attend Eastern Illinois University. I kind of have a special role within housing. I'm the ARD of Safety and Special Events. So I oversee the night assistant program and help with summer conferences when we have summer conferences. I got involved in higher education through my undergrad over at CSU Chico, which is in Northern California. What was interesting about the role that we had there is that we took away the event planning job away from the resident advisors and made its own entity called the Hub. So I worked there for 2 years with late night programs, educational events, and just like an overall welcoming feel for our housing students and our university students to come hang out in a really special place. And I loved being a part of those moments where they got to create lasting memories and friends. And that's what made me passionate about higher education and wanting to continue this avenue for me.
Thank you. Up next, we have Crystal.
Hey everyone, good afternoon. I'm Crystal Jones, pronouns are she, her. I am a second year in the College Student Personnel Administration program at Illinois State University, the Redbirds. I already forgot all the questions. Oh yes, so I currently have my graduate assistantship with the Multicultural Center, which is a brand new office at Illinois State University, which we're really proud of that. And my area of interest is multicultural center work, diversity and inclusion work, and also I'm very interested in academic advising a little bit more specific. I really would love to be an advisor in the pre-health professions field. I'm doing my prac with the advisor here at Illinois State right now, and I love it. And then how did I get into student affairs is interesting because I got my major in general biology. I was like gonna be an eye doctor for like 3.5 years. I was on that track, and then I was like, no thanks, I'm not passionate about that. Illinois State has academic peer advisors, APA, and I was one of those my senior year, and I was told, hey, like you can do this, and so I was like, okay, let me giddy up and apply real quick. So I just fell in love with like serving students in that way, and every day I'm more inspired and passionate about it. So
Thank you. Up next, we have Takiyah Hicks.
Yeah, so it says that the host has control over my camera, so I can't show it. I'm trying to select it. I'm having technical. There we go. Awesome. All right, can everyone see and hear me? Perfect. Well, my name is Takiyah Hicks. I'm a second-year master's student in the Higher Education Student Affairs program at Northern Illinois University, and I have the wonderful pleasure of being Christian's cohort mate or classmate, if however you want to call it. So I am currently I currently have my graduate assistantship in the student life office at Waubonsie Community College. But prior to this, I was previously an admissions graduate assistant, but I kind of switched roles there because I really wanted to work more closely with current college students instead of prospective college students. Not that I didn't enjoy both, but I just wanted to try to get more of a one-on-one experience with students, and I get the pleasure of doing that now. So the functional area that I think I'm interested in going to, I've kind of been dabbling in different ones, but immediately when I graduate college in May, my goal is to go into academic advising for a little bit. However, I am really passionate about student support services programs, so like TRIO, SSS programs, upper bound programs, and I had the opportunity to do my internship with them. And I was also formerly a TRIO alum, so that was really fun. I did that through ISU actually, where I received my undergraduate degree. So I guess wherever the wind blows me, I'm open to either one. I got into higher education kind of in a weird way. So I had a 4-year gap between my undergraduate and my grad school graduate experience. And so initially I was going to become an elementary education school teacher. So I wanted to teach second graders because I love the kids, love the kiddos. But a lot of my volunteer experience always centered around like high school students and preparing them to matriculate into college, or like freshman college students. And so when I like kind of reflected on the experience that I had with those volunteer opportunities and experiences, I was like, man, I really love like working with college students. But I didn't know what higher education was. I mean, I knew like college existed and it was there, but I didn't know it was called higher education and student affairs. And so I had a friend who actually graduated from the NIU's program, and he kind of told me about it. So I reached out to my current advisor, Danae, and learned a little bit more about the program. And that was right around the time that I found out about GSARP, which was pretty cool. So I got to come to NIU and apply basically for graduate assistantships. And that kind of started my journey and how I got to NIU.
Thank you. And then last but not least, we have Taylor.
Hi, everyone. My name is Taylor Eggerton. I currently attend Western Illinois University. I'm a second year in our student affairs program. I'm sorry, I am a little nervous, so I'm going to take a lot of deep breaths. I currently work in our Office of Student Engagement for my assistantship. I've worked here for 2 years. Last year, I worked in leadership and service, and this year I am working in fraternity and sorority life, specifically with our United Greek Council, which is our multicultural organizations and NPHC organizations. I love it. It is so much fun. My students are amazing. My interest areas mainly is in engagement and activities. However, I did do my practicum with our union services, and I loved that. And then I also did an internship this summer with Georgia State University with their orientation, and I loved that too. Even though it was virtual, we still had a really great experience. How I got interested in this program and just student affairs in general, I was a student leader, I'm sure like many others in undergrad. I held a lot of leadership positions kind of later in my career. And I didn't really know this was a thing, and my family didn't understand that it was a thing, and no one really did. So that kind of made my journey getting here a little difficult. But at the end of the day, I still ended up here, and I'm happy to be here. I love the work that I do, and I love working so closely with students and having an impact on their journey.
Thank you. So the next 4 questions I'm going to ask, just to kind of break it down for our audience to know. The first one's going to be a little bit around application process and tips. The second one will be around funding the degree, right, and talking about assistantships, internships. The third question will be surrounding kind of involvement. What are our panelists involved in, committees, all that great stuff. And then our last one, they're going to get to share a little bit about their program, just so that you all kind of have an idea of what will be covered. So the first question, and I'm putting it in the chat. So any overall advice to individuals that are currently checking out programs and or applying? So they're either just still thinking about going into student affairs, or they're literally already in the process.
I'll go. If you're in the process, one thing that really helped me get focused is knowing like what are my like have tos. I have a partner that I've been living with for 3 years, and I had to have the accessibility for him to come with me. If you're location bound, then that's going to play another role into your decision making. And I think really knowing what are those high priority lists for you needs to be incorporated into your research. What I did is I made a spreadsheet of all my universities and all the information I needed to know, the benefits they give, the perks that come with it, how far is it away from home. For me, I'm fortunate that I'm from California and I have the freedom to go where I want to. And so that made my options kind of limitless. But really just looking into what are those things that you need required to best help you in your decision making. Making a spreadsheet really puts it all in perspective and gives an overall view of all your options.
think, sorry, Crystal. This is so fun trying to figure out who's going to go first. I think my first advice would be to not be afraid to go into student affairs. Like I said during my introduction, my family, I'm a first generation college student, so my family didn't really understand what I was doing. Honestly, they still don't, but I'm trying to teach them. So don't let that hold you back. I have weird advice for the application process because I applied 2 weeks before my program started and was like, yep, I'm just going to move back and it's going to be cool. So definitely, as hard as it is to get those thoughts out of your head of like what people are going to think of you, this is a selfish decision. This is a time for you to learn and grow. And I mean, you're young one time, as cliche as it sounds, and take the opportunities when you have them. And then my other word of advice is to not be afraid to attend your alma mater. I think that's something that I personally thought was like super frowned upon in this field was, well, I went to Western, I was a fifth year, like I went there forever, like I don't have anything else to learn. And there is so much more when you're a grad student and you're working for that institution that you see happen than you are as an undergrad. And that can shape your experience. I have learned so much about just higher education and Western in these last 2 years than I did in the 5 years I was in undergrad. So please keep that in mind as you are applying. More than likely, your program will want you to still be there. I did ask our faculty at one point last year, like, do you guys want Western students here? I heard that you don't. And they were like, no, we want them here. We would love to keep them here. So don't let that be something that holds you back, because more than likely they want you there just as much as you want to be there.
Yeah, I echo everything that Becca and Taylor have been saying. For those considering it, as someone who literally switched gears my like summer going into fall of my senior year, it was a little stressful to think about all of that. I think the main advice I can give is like, don't doubt that you're capable of getting into the programs and not capable of succeeding in those programs. I can't speak for like all the other programs, but I can assume that the faculty are willing to make it work. I've seen it time and time again where people have the self-doubt, but our faculty will like bring them up and work with you to succeed and do well. And I think that that's super important because I definitely went into the program being like, I'm not good enough. My bio background is not going to be good enough. And I'm thriving. I'm not going to pretend I'm not. Like, so like you really have a good support like once you're in there and don't think that you're not capable. For people that are thinking of applying, again, like go look at the people, the mentors that you have that are already in student affairs, like pick their brain. Like what was their experience? What would they change or what would they continue to do, and the experiences that they would want to do and want you to have. I think that was another big piece about my experience was going to those folks already in the field and talking to them and picking their brain.
Yeah, I want to just echo everything that everyone else said, but I'm going to provide some unconventional advice, but it's still, I think, valuable. Use social media. So on Facebook, they have so many different like student affairs Facebook groups, and I check them all the time. I see people posting about their different programs, things that they have that might differ from other programs, and students are constantly asking questions in those Facebook chats. So you can go there to see and ask, like, what have your experiences been in this particular program? Do you know if they offer, a large number of graduate assistantships or maybe tuition waivers or things like that? And I honestly, since we're in this virtual environment now, we can't really, I mean, you can, but if you visit institutions, you won't see that many people. So to kind of understand like the campus climate or anything like that. But if you just kind of use those social media platforms, Facebook, on Facebook, I'm a part of Futures Student Affairs Professionals, I believe it's what it's called. I don't know if you guys are a part of those pages too, but they post on there constantly, like every day there's something new. I'm always seeing undergraduate students post about, hey, I'm getting ready to graduate and I'm thinking about pursuing a master's degree in higher education or student affairs. What are some programs that offer this? And this is probably something you'll learn if you decide to go in this field, but look at look at the institution's mission statements, values. Does it align with what your values are? I know they probably talk a lot about that depending on the type of major you're in. I know that's something that's important to me. Like, does the institution value diversity? Because if they don't, then I might not be learning about diversity in my courses. So kind of taking that approach too, and that lens, and just kind of doing your own research. Do they have a diverse faculty members? Like, just really look into all of those different things and think about like what's important to you. What would you want to learn or gain from it? And if you kind of don't know where to start, I would also recommend kind of doing what I did, is just reach out to the academic advisor, ask for some resources of like where you can start, maybe do some informational interviews, and asking, faculty members, administrators, or staff, like, what has your experience been like at this respective institution, and just learning a little bit more about it.
Thank you. Appreciate that. That was all really good information. Okay, next question that we have. Can you share with us any tips in regards to obtaining, but also what it's like working an internship and or assistantship? So kind of talking about funding the degree, what kind of questions should you be asking? What are maybe some of the acronyms that you're probably looking for, right, when it comes to funding? Because it's not just going to say free money. So just a little bit of background in regards to that.
Yeah, I will go ahead and go first. So Western Illinois' program requires you to have an assistantship. So kind of when you start the process of applying, our wonderful support staff, Jill, shout out to Jill, I know you're on here. She connects with you right away and kind of gauges your interests. If you go through our formal interview days, you interview with about 5 different offices they suggest. I highly suggest interviewing with a lot of offices. It may not seem like something is interesting to you, but then you might meet the people in the interview and really connect and really figure out like that might be an interest for you. A keyword, at least at Western, is we use tuition waivers. So you get a full tuition waiver with your assistantship. So that is really nice. We love free things out here when we're struggling. And then for internships, of course, the pandemic has made our experiences a little different than the past. I did a NOTA internship, and I love NOTA. I love the layout of the website. I know Kuhoai is very similar as well. My first thing to say is apply, 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 apply. Get your name out there. That's the first time, especially before you start applying for jobs, to put your resume in someone's eyes and get your name out there for future job searches. You may not get a call back, but hey, that university might remember you when you're applying for a job there. The only other thing I really wanted to say with this is there is, I think, sometimes a pressure to do like a NOTA or a Kuhoai or NACA internship, and there is financial ties with that. You have to usually pay for a membership and pay to be in the portal. I would suggest also looking independently. I know that my colleague and also my roommate did an independent search, and she found a really great internship, and she ended up getting it. The pandemic kind of ruined it, but she was able to do that without having to make that financial investment. So even though those are organizations that are really pushed and have really great like processes and have great information, if that's not something that you can commit to, there's still a possibility of you getting one. So even if like you're an undergrad right now and you want to experience higher ed before committing to a program, you can use NOTA or a Kuhoai, but I also suggest doing an independent search if you are able to do the financial costs.
I can speak a little bit more about the independent search, because that's kind of the approach that I took when I did my internship process. So as I mentioned earlier in my introduction, I was really committed to wanting to go the TRIO student support services route. And so I was only looking for internships that were in that realm. But then I realized I needed to challenge myself and try to explore other functional areas, because if I limit myself to just only doing TRIO, then I won't know, what else I might be interested in. And so later on through the process, this was actually during the pandemic when it happened, because some institutions were still hiring for interns. I use those Facebook groups, and I promise you, I got so many like emails saying, hey, like we're still looking for, and these were people who were also a part of like NOTA and NASPA, and maybe they didn't fill those slots that they had intended. So you would use those Facebook groups. And so they're on there. So again, use the Facebook groups. But I took that approach. And so I got a lot of interviews from that. And unfortunately, because of the pandemic, I was supposed to go to Florida International University, but I didn't have the opportunity to go. But I was so grateful because my current graduate assistant at Wabanzi, basically they created an internship for myself and another one of my cohort members. And so I actually got the opportunity she asked me like, what was I interested in learning about? And I said, well, I don't really know much about student conduct. So I got to work with the Dean for Students to do a little bit of work in student conduct. I still got to do some TRIO work. So I did work alongside with the manager for TRIO at the Wabanzi Community College. And then I also continued to do some work with my student life graduate assistantship, but on the assessment side, because I was really interested in learning about assessment. So if you kind of see internships that maybe that don't meet the goals that you're looking for, don't hesitate to reach out to some departments and say, hey, I need an internship requirement. I love, this particular department or functional area or this particular school, and I see you guys don't have an internship. Would you be willing to work with me to sort of create some sort of internship plan? And the reason I recommend that is because one of the things that I learned throughout this entire process is that they want you to kind of take that initiative, step up, and show them that you're ready to do the work. And it's free help sometimes. I mean, some of them are paid, but it's free help. So I was really blessed to be able to create the exact experience that I wanted to receive, and I'm so grateful for that. And so I just kind of recommend that too as an alternative. But definitely, like Taylor mentioned, definitely use those organizations if you want to commit to paying the funds, and you want to just get the practice of applying for those type of roles and also doing those interviews, because that was the scary part too, is interviewing. I remember they asked us about like student development theory, and I'm like, ooh, okay, I got 2 that I know verbatim, but the rest I don't know. So like that's another thing. Make sure you know your student development theories. But yeah, I don't want to take up too much time because I can go for days. But yeah.
I'm going to kind of echo off Takiyah there. Is with my internship, I knew before really the school year even started what I wanted to do for my internship. I have like a background goal of being a part of hospitality, and I thought a really good generalist way of getting more hands-on experience was working with facilities, and that's something I wanted to do this summer. And fortunately, like I was hands-on the entire summer, and because of me saying yes and taking those opportunities, I'm now a part of the isolation process here at Eastern. Like I'm supervising those rooms and like assisting those students that are needing the most help that we could give them. I think going through NOTA and all those other application processes are going to give you so much experience in getting that interview skills. And honestly, I feel kind of behind because I didn't have that this summer. I didn't apply myself that way. And so I do feel like I missed out on that experience, but I also know that I've made my own experiences. And with that, I've even asked the advancement team for me to do an external internship just to know more about their program. So I think the more opportunities you give to yourself is going to give you the most benefit for it, and just give you an overall exercise of like the entire higher education experience.
Hello. I don't have much to add on the internships that haven't been said already, besides if you're doing a traditional route, you're probably not doing your internship until the summer, like you're going into after your first year. And the only advice I can give you on that right now is please don't stress about it early. At least at Illinois State, we have like a whole like presentation on it, and like people, like a lot of, I know my whole cohort was like freaking out in like September, and I just don't want that for you folks. It'll be fine, don't stress too early. But if you're just feeling curious, definitely go ahead and like look at what like schools are maybe offering. And then I think on the assistantship piece is Illinois State also requires an assistantship, and we also basically ensure that you get one. It's very rare that doesn't happen. We also host grad days in the spring, which is a whole like interview, get your assistantship type event. It was really impactful for me. I got to know a little bit of the faculty a little bit more, met my advisor, kind of was walked through how the program's going to go. It was like a little bit of an orientation, but like also like if you were to commit, and then also like interviewing for assistantship. So I felt like secure in getting an assistantship.
Yes, Crystal, I think, ended that question really well, where you should probably not stress it out. They're probably throwing a lot of information at you, but this is just kind of a moment to like soak it in, process it. But trust me, again, I don't know everyone's advisor, but I'm pretty sure they are willing to take the time with you all when it comes to internships, application process, all that kind of stuff, right? So don't stress it too much. This is just kind of a moment to like process that information or like let it soak in. So our third question is going to be more so around involvement, right? So the panelists, the faculty panels talked a little bit about like, what does it look like now that you're a grad student, or basically almost like a faculty member, or you get treated kind of as a faculty member, right? What does that involvement piece look like? Or I was very involved in undergrad, like what is that going to look like in grad school? That's kind of like a common question. So the question that I ask is, how do you partake in professional development? And then are you part of any organizations, honor societies, associations, committees? As we know, there's so many terms, right, for these things. So what's like your involvement looking like as a grad student?
I can start. So in undergrad, I was pretty involved in like a sports club. I played Quidditch. It's real, it's fun, it's exciting. And so I was like pretty busy with that, right? And I had all these other things that I was doing. In grad school, my commitments in grad school have been professional development, whereas I feel like in undergrad, it was a lot of my like networking and social and like development in like myself. And so now I'm just like working on like my professional development now that I'm secure in the kind of field that I want to be into. And so I'm just like a yes person right now. And I did choose to change my graduate assistantship my second year to get a new experience. I'm just trying to get all these different tools under my belt. Professionally, I'm trying to go to as many opportunities to learn as possible, volunteering to do this, just to talk with folks. Any way I can practice skills that I think are going to make me a successful advocate for my students, I'm trying to do that. So I would say like my commitments and the things that I'm involved in are ways that I can become a better professional for my students. And then we also have at Illinois State, we have an organization for CSPA. And I think we have some committees coming out on that. One is anti-racism focused, and I'm very excited to be a part of that committee when that gets rolling. But those are the only things that I'm really like involved in currently. And also reading.
I can go. So I have a lot to say, I'm sorry. But we do have a lot here at Western Illinois. So to start off, we do have a lot of programming that comes out of our CSP office with our grads. So something that they put on is Alumni Hour. It happens 2 to 3 times a month, I think. Sorry, Kerwin, if I got that wrong. Shout out to you because we just talked about this yesterday. But so we talk with a lot of alumni to bring them back to talk on specific subjects. So last year, they talked a lot about job searches, and this year they're doing a lot of social justice-based alumni hours. So it's really great to start networking really early. We provide that for sure. We also have Western Illinois Student Personnel Association, also called WISPA. And it's kind of our organization that is geared with our program. So what's really great about that is it gives you kind of an opportunity to still be a student leader, but in a different role. So I currently serve on that. I am the social chair. I help put together our year appreciation parties, but we also have Erin, who's also on this call. Wow, so great. You guys are all here, who is our professional development chair, and she brings different speakers to talk about different subjects. So last year, a lot of things that we talked about, we did Strength Quest, we did email etiquette, etc. At least personally in my assistantship in the Office of Student Engagement, we have a lot of committees that like subcommittees in our office. So we have an awards committee that does our leadership awards every year. We have our advocacy and accountability committee. We have our professional development committee, and then we have a social media committee. So our professional development committee puts on different programs about every other Friday when we don't have staff meetings. And they're actually, they are just now starting with COVID and everything. We're a little behind, but I'm very eager for that to start. And then I think a really special experience that gets offered at Western is I currently have the opportunity of being a teaching assistant. So both of our faculty members, Dr. Tracy and Dr. Layla, reach out to the second years towards the beginning of their first year to see if anybody would be interested in co-facilitating and co-teaching, if you are interested in being a faculty member or eventually getting your PhD. So I'm currently working with Dr. Tracy in our group dynamics class with the first years, and it's provided a great opportunity for me to just work on my facilitation skills. It's something I really want to work and grow in. I would love to like regularly speak at conferences, which is why I took this opportunity. And also just like getting to learn more about your community. Sometimes in cohort models, the second years and the first years don't get to interact very much because you're on separate schedules and separate work schedules. So that provides, at least I have the opportunity right now to meet these first years and work with them and help them grow. I think that is all. Thank you.
I can go next. So I had to pull in my resume because I had to do so much and sometimes it's hard to remember. But so currently I'm a part of a lot of different professional development opportunities as well. So I am part of the Chi Sigma Alpha Honor Society here at Northern Illinois University, which we actually just brought to our campus last year. The second years who just recently graduated brought that to our campus. So Christian and I are actually a part of that organization, and that's been a fun experience. We're going to be having an event next week, actually, where we're going to just invite some panelists to discuss like job searches and, you know, kind of their experiences in the field that they're in. Also, I'm a part of an Illinois Black Retention Working Group. So this was a working group that was developed over the summer, basically to address the salient issues that are currently affecting Black students in Illinois. And we just kind of talk about the different barriers that you know, that they face while trying to basically make it through college. And so that has been a very fun and interesting experience because, you know, with me being a novice and being a graduate student, I'm on this working group with a lot of people who are like presidents of different colleges and universities and have all of this experience. So I feel like I'm learning just a lot from being on that group and hearing like their experiences in higher education. And then also similar to Taylor, I actually had the opportunity to teach a first year seminar course as well called UNIV 101, which is at NIU. And that was a great experience. So last year, and I believe the years prior, the way that it worked was you kind of paired with one of the instructors and you kind of got to work closely with them. But now as graduate students, we get to teach that course ourselves along with another graduate student. So that has been a wonderful experience. To be able to teach college students and work with very closely with first year students and just kind of understanding like their process and how they're navigating this year being in a remote environment. So that's pretty cool. Let's see. Oh, I'm also a part of a committee that I just joined a couple of weeks ago at Wabanzi Community College, which is called Wabanzi Cares. So it basically addresses food insecurity in the Wabanzi community, which is something that was really important to me because over this past semester, I just kind of learned some of the food insecurities that my students were facing, and I just really wanted to learn like what more can I do to kind of help them. And so I joined that committee just to kind of see like what they had going on. And so I actually had a meeting with that earlier today, so that was pretty cool. And then also, sorry about that. Also, some of the things that you can get involved in is hosting Student Affairs Conference 101. So last year I had the opportunity of presenting at this conference, and so I did a presentation on it was called I think Show Me the Money, How to Pay for Graduate School the Smart Way. And so that was a fun experience. That was my first time ever presenting in front of like a group of people. It was definitely nerve-wracking, but a really fun experience. And it's really awesome because each year this year we kind of each institution worked closely together to kind of host it, but each year they have a host institution that kind of hosts it. So last year Western did it, and I got to attend, and that was really cool because you get to network with other either prospective higher education, professionals or current graduate students, and learn about it. So I know I met some of you all that are on the call last year, and that was a fun experience. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff to do. There's so many different committees, and I just recommend that if you get like a supervisor, just ask like, what are some professional development opportunities I can be a part of? Because at first I wasn't aware of some of the committees, and then when I asked, they were like, of course, we would love for you to join the committees to gain some experience. And so if you're very eager to get involved, if you're that type of person in undergrad where you were heavily involved in student clubs and organizations, when you get to grad school, you kind of look around like, okay, so what can I do? This is weird. Because usually you have like so many different student clubs and organizations you can be a part of. But there are things to do as a graduate student to keep yourself active. But I do want to emphasize that graduate school is a lot within itself. So don't feel pressured to like do a million things and have a lot of things going on, especially during your first year while you're trying to get acclimated and used to graduate school, because there is a lot of reading. And a lot of reading, but you just want to learn how to prioritize and develop good time management skills. But once you do develop those good time management skills, you can start to like learn how much time you have to dedicate towards being on committees and part of different clubs or organizations. So yeah.
I'm really going to echo the end of that. It's really overwhelming when you think about all the opportunities and all the information that we're throwing at you right now. I balked at the very beginning of my first year of like, everyone's like, we're going to do this. We're going to go to this convention. We're going to go to this conference. And you're like, what do I want to do? That's okay. If you are over prepared and you're like, I already know what I want, good for you. You could also wait. Unfortunately, my conference that I did want to go to ended up getting canceled due to the coronavirus. But I think really just acclimating and finding yourself and getting connected on campus is probably going to be one of the best first things you could do. And then start thinking regionally. That's what really my main focus that first year has been, is like getting to know the different departments around campus and like recognizing other professionals that I see so they know you and you know them. It really will ground you in like your community. And I think that's what's also really important. And then when you're able to figure out like that time management skill of like, what can I afford to give others, then joining those committees and learning more and getting to be a part of like a bigger network, because everyone's going to tell you, we all know each other in higher education. Like it's a big family and it latches onto you. So that's kind of my bit of advice, is start local, then spread out.
Yes, yes, yes. Trust me, there's definitely going to be a lot to do. It's going to remain there. People are going to want you to join committees, especially if you're bringing in that knowledge at work. So don't be scared. Like, it's always going to be there. So just to kind of keep sake of time and just again to respect everyone's time, I'm going to skip the last question, which was a little bit talking more about your programs, because I feel like a lot of you all targeted and like talked a little bit about your programs. And if people have questions, I'm pretty sure if it's okay with you all, that they could just kind of personally reach out, because they'll have your information at the end of the conference. So I kind of just wanted to open it up now and see if anyone has any questions, whether they would like to drop it in the chat, or if they personally want to ask their question, they can go ahead and do that as well if they just want to raise their hand, and then we'll call on them, because I do want to make sure that we do at least get a couple of questions from the audience in there. Don't be scared, y'all. Someone has to have a question. Okay. Mimi says, what was the biggest adjustment you had to make transitioning from undergrad to your grad program? I don't know why I didn't ask that. That's kind of like an obvious one that I missed. But yes, what was the biggest adjustment that you had to do transitioning from undergrad to grad?
Learning APA was challenging for me. So when you get into your grad program, you start to write your papers. Typically in higher education, you follow an APA guidelines, and you have to adhere to those. And so when it came to citations and things like that, I was used to a different manual style. And so I had to really learn. But I will say, do not hesitate to reach out to your instructors and ask for help. They are there. They're very helpful and knowledgeable, and they want to see you do well. And then also, I know that typically a lot of times people think that the Writing Center is only for undergraduate students, but I have learned so much from the Writing Center. My first semester, every time I had a paper, I'd go to the Writing Center to receive help, and I learned from doing that. So I would definitely say that, especially with me having that gap, I was really nervous between going back to grad school, because I was like, man, I haven't been in undergrad for such a long time. Like, will I be able to, basically just questioning my own academic abilities, and which I don't recommend that you do, because we're all starting off, you know, and that's the biggest thing. I'm even learning just about all of my students. We all have to learn our different things, and we're all going to have our different journeys and start from a different point. So, you know, wherever you're at when you're enter the graduate program, just make sure that you're utilizing the resources that are available to you. So whether that's an instructor dropping in their office hours, or going, you know, to the writing center to receive help. And then also cohort, you know, in our program, we have these, Dr. Katie, she told us to find like a true blue in our program. And so basically that's just like finding someone that you can kind of lean on to stay on top of you and hold you accountable for getting those assignments in and things like that. And so I think that has been really helpful for me personally, is just having like people that I can like lean on, because we're all going through the same thing. So, you know, now, I mean, even like Christian and I, we always talk about like, man, did you get that assignment in? Or like, how are you doing on this paper? Like, how's your assessment project going? And it's really reaffirming, because it's like, you have that strong support system. Even like instructors, like I can go to my instructors and say like, I'm not really getting this. And I've been able to go to my instructors' office hours and not feel like, you know, like they didn't want to help me. Like they were really helpful. And so I think for me, it was just a number of things, like just basically building that confidence in myself to be able to succeed in the program.
I would read, oh, sorry, Taylor. Okay. Kind of retweet of one of the professors had said earlier is that you're only in this program for 2 years. Make the most of it. If you end up somewhere where, like California, nice, warm, beautiful state. Midwest is not as warm and beautiful. It is great. I have thoroughly enjoyed my time, but just remember it's only 2 years and you just have to make the most of it. And if you're like, man, Illinois is not the state for me, you could leave after. You have that opportunity, and like you just want to make the most of it. And 2 years goes by so fast. We are wrapping up and we're already thinking about jobs. You guys are just getting started, so good luck.
I think for me, my hardest part of the transition was like just learning how to be a grad student. It's very, very different than undergrad. In undergrad, I wasn't someone like the program I was in didn't have a lot of reading, the occasional test, but not really a lot. So just like relearning how to be a student and going in with the attitude that it's not going to be the same, I think will save a lot of people like the brain hurt of like what is going on. And then I think the hardest part for me, so just advice if you want to stay at your undergrad institution, it is difficult. While it's great to still be somewhere you're familiar with, you have to relearn how to like interact on campus. And, you know, now I work for the institution, like that means a completely different role than what I was as an undergrad. So while difficult, still I have no regrets being here. I love my program, I love my cohort, but just keep that in mind if you do decide to stay at your alma mater, that it kind of comes with some extra work you have to do on yourself just to refigure out your role on campus.
Yeah, I think real quick, I had a whole different one, and then Taylor talked and I was like, dang, that was the biggest adjustment for me, because I also went to Illinois State for my undergrad, and it was hard to navigate like being in, especially my grad assistantship, being a professional, but like low-key I was like friends with some of the people I was at supervising because I just graduated like 3 months ago. Like it was really hard to navigate the professional aspects since I stayed at my institution. It's obviously been okay. I'm working on it thanks to, I love a challenge, right? But that was probably my biggest adjustment, on top of like navigating having to meet new people and like rely on folks. Luckily, I have the best cohort in the entire world, but there was a good chance that that could not have happened. So navigating like my personality along with like my other cohort mates was a little difficult in the beginning, but it's been amazing. So
I liked everything except that you say you have the best cohort, because I can challenge you at that, but we'll have a conversation a different day.
listen, let's all hang out. Let's all hang out.
Yes, I like that instead. So I think, yeah, we have room for another question. So Takiyah, since you took a gap between undergrad and grad school, how did you get back into the swing of things? And I guess I can kind of fix the question a little bit. So while Takiyah answers that part of it, like taking the gap, those that went back to back, like how was that experience as well? So Takiyah, if you want to start off this one.
Yeah, Caprice, it was nerve-wracking, to be honest. And I think the best way that I got into the swing of things was just, again, utilizing my support system. And so, like I said, like I used the resources. And it's funny because, you know, as an instructor now and, you know, working closely with students, I'm always telling them, make sure you use the resources. If you need help with math, we have tutors and stuff like that, but you really have to take your own advice. And so once I started to use the Writing Center or go to my instructors, I literally started to learn. And I felt better, like, and I got back into the swings of things. And to be completely honest, even though, you know, some of the people in my cohort just recently graduated from their undergraduate institution, they were grappling with some of the same things that I was. So it honestly, I don't think that the gap really makes that huge of a difference, because we're all at different learning points. And so for me, it was just a matter of making sure that I utilized the resources that were around me and having a support system that was, you know, gonna help me stay accountable. Like we're always, like Christian and I, we always chat and we're like, hey, like, how's this going? And that's really helpful because, especially, I'm gonna be completely honest, I have been very unmotivated during this virtual environment. Right now, I live in a studio and I have nowhere to go. I have nowhere to go, and that has been the most challenging thing because, like, even Christian and I, we would be into like the home student center till like midnight. And so, and that was my place. That's where I went to get work done. And now I don't really, you know, I don't go there because I don't want to have to sit in a mask all day. And so that's been very challenging for me. And so at this time right now, like really leaning on my own support has been really critical in my own self-development and my success as a graduate student. And then also not being too critical on yourself. Like, it's okay. It is challenging because, like, I'm not going to lie, in grad school, it's like we only have like 100 points for the class. So it's going to be a little bit nerve wracking because you're like, oh, I can only miss 5 points to get an A. But I stopped focusing on the grades that I wanted to get, and I started focusing on the material and the content that I was getting out of the classroom. And when I started focusing on that, all of it just fell in place. Like, so, you know, really, I think in the video that we watched earlier, someone mentioned, you know, really, like, when you're reading the textbooks, try to like relate that back to your own experiences. And I relate to a lot of the things in the textbooks. And sometimes I get angry from the things in the textbooks. I'm like, these old ideologies don't make any sense. They're not relevant. But that's what's helping me grow and learn as a person. So I think it's really, really unique. But if you need help, let me know. She actually is a NIU undergraduate or graduate student in the program. So if you need help, let me know. And I'd be more than happy to help.
I think something to add in general, and you kind of touched on that, but no one is ever actually prepared to be a grad student. Like, you can take 2 months off or you can take 5 years off, but like, you really don't know what you're getting yourself into until you do it. So like I said earlier, I wasn't planning on going to grad school. And then like 2 weeks before, I was like, I can do it. I did undergrad. Like, how hard can it be? It's different. So just remind yourself of that as you're going into your programs and as you're applying, is that it's going to be a learning curve, but everybody is experiencing that learning curve. The only people I can maybe think that sorry, there's a fly in my house, are the people that have been in a grad program before. They probably kind of know, but like, I know for almost everybody in my cohort, no one had tried a grad program yet. So we were all like, whoa. So just keep that in mind. Don't be too hard on yourself. Imposter syndrome is real and it sucks, but reach out to your people and your classmates and your cohort, and get that validation that you do belong where you are.
I think I would only add, so I'm someone that went straight in. And because I went straight in, I was so fresh in my undergrad experience, like kind of what Taylor said, I felt like I could just do the same thing I did in undergrad, but my time, I would always say time management's my thing. I'm real organized, but it's different even just like semester to semester, how I have to be adaptable. And I think that's like a piece of advice for anyone, like whether you take a year off, 2 years off, like whatever, is just being willing to be flexible and adaptable and knowing that like your faculty and staff should be as well and hold them accountable in that way. And most of them are, at least from the institutions that are represented today. But yeah, I think that was like one of the biggest things and a big eye opener for me. It was just like I thought I could do the same thing, and that's not true, even though I like went straight through.
I'm a bit of an older student. I'm 27. I was a transfer, and there are no prerequisites for college student affairs. This is new territory for all of us. Coming from a rec background, I know that there was some discrepancies between the different degrees that we all had. We had very science-based, we had event management, not on the same level for all of us. So retweeting everything, do your best, reach out, use your resources, because we're all in the same boat.
Thank you, appreciate it. So usually how I like to end the panels that I usually lead is with just a quick piece of advice or your motto, what has kind of basically kept you sane while you do this program. And if y'all just kind of want to, again, it could be a sentence, a few words, a motto, just so we can wrap it up.
Oh, see, Christian did prepare us for this question. So I think for me, just in general, motto is just I'm a huge spiritual person, so prayer and positive affirmations have gotten me through this entire program. And just whatever you do, just don't give up. You're gonna have your rough days, but don't give up. We're all here and we're in the program together, and you have people, so just remember to lean on them.
I think mine would be to just remember that you're always unfinished, no matter where you're at in your career. I mean, I know Dr. Tracy, one of our faculty members, always says that he's unfinished. He has his doctorate degree. He's been teaching here for 25 plus years. I don't really remember how long, and he's still learning. So no matter how much you learn, there's always more to learn, and be willing to learn and be willing to be uncomfortable, because that's how you're going to grow. It's better to have these tough conversations in the classroom and learn than having the tough conversations in front of someone and not knowing what to say or not knowing what to do. I think that was the hardest thing for me to learn in the beginning, but I am very, very thankful that I have learned it and embraced it in my journey.
Ooh, I really like what Taylor said. That would have been my second part. But mine's just going to be a lovely Hamilton quote. If you stand for nothing, what do you fall for? Bring your values, your passions with you to whatever program you decide to be in. Seriously, like hold your faculty, staff, students, institution accountable. Look at what they're doing, how they've been responding to the deaths of Breonna Taylor and all of the Black folks that have been killed this summer and before that, and probably going to continue, unfortunately, until things get, till justice is served. Seriously, look into that at your institution.
Mine is going to be know your truth. Your reality is your own. Advocate for yourself, advocate for your friends. Your voice matters. And people are going to listen, or you're going to scream until they do.
Mic drop. Thank you. I appreciate it. It was awesome having you all. And again, thank you to our panelists.